and Gisela, there's someone emailing about Riwa. I think because it's
Don't worry,
okay. We
we'll see
will
what is that
okay.
later. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me see if everything is all right.
Gisela, there's someone email.
Yes, everything is amazing. Good. Checking. Well, lately we were um, learning the motifs. Yes, how to build a motif, right? So things to um, take into account when building or composing or analyzing a motif. First of all, do you remember previous topics? I mean, of what was important, what was not important, because today, naturally, we have to carry on. Yes, we have 2 more things to do. Hopefully, we're going to do it 1 hour. Yeah. And then analysis, the proper analysis will start. Yeah. So we started from the big picture of the parts, the main parts of a motif. Yes. To now we zoom in into what a motif is. Yeah. Out of idle curiosity, who remembers which are the parts of an invention? The parts that they should be there, they're quite standard. There is no 100%. Remember that 15 two-voice inventions. Some inventions don't follow that. Yes, but the ones that are not a canon, like an F major, the ones that are not a binary form, like the E major, the ones that they are not like a this kind of partita prelude kind of form that has the E minor, yeah. The other ones that have a more strict structure.
So,
Curious.
motif in one voice, counter motif on the same voice, motif on the other voice in the octave.
Yeah.
And
Imitation
then
to the octave.
imitation to the octave, yes.
Yes.
Then motif on the first voice on the dominant. Actually, yeah, the dominant, yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe counter motif, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then things happen.
Well, yeah, very good. So far so good. So that is essentially what you have described. What is that?
The beginning of a invention.
Yeah, exactly. But what's the name? Think about a sonata.
Presentation.
I mean, yes. I mean, you always present stuff, but exposition.
What again?
Exposition.
Exposition. Damn it.
You have exposition, and then again, I mean, what you're saying is the main, like the standard or the main structure of the one very specific invention, which is
Which one is it? I don't know, but I think it was pretty standard, that one.
I mean, there's nothing really standard in the two-voice inventions. Generally, they say, well, this is the standard, but if you analyze every single one, you're going to see that you have differences. But yeah, it's pretty standard.
Para pa 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 pa. I think that one, no?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Yeah.
Sol, G. So in G. No? It's in C. I was wrong.
It's in C. C major. The first one. So you have exposition, and then anyone, Laura? do you remember which are these? Gerius described motif, yes, and then counter motif, imitation to the octave, and then you have motif, motif, octave, maybe, yes, counter motif. Now, harmonically, what happened there?
Modulation.
You're not going to modulate at the beginning, unless you're Wagner.
You start on like chord 1, probably.
Chord 1? What is chord 1?
Like
the tonic.
Yeah.
Chord 1, chord 2, chord 3. The tonic, yes, you start on the tonic, but then what happens?
You move to another chord.
Hopefully, if you stay on one chord.
Like the dominant.
You have yes, and then you have
and then back to the tonic after.
Back to the tonic. So you have tonic, so tonic level and dominant level, not a modulation, because you don't use the notes that belong to the scale of G major. The chord is G major because it's a dominant of C major, but it acts like the dominant because that's F natural and resolves, yes, into the third of the tonic. Good. That's exposition. And then what you have, like Gero said, things happen. Jasmine, what happens after that? Generally. Where do you go?
I don't know what happened.
Sorry?
To the next. I don't know.
You? Anyone?
Not sure, no.
You always, once you establish something in an invention.
You go to like a development or something?
There's no proper development as you would have in a sonata, yeah, because it's not yet, it's not yet the time, yes. You have a transition, you have an episode, yes. You have an episode in which you just serves, yes, to transit, yes, to another. Yes, well, we don't say exposition because exposition is always one, is the first one, a middle entry. Yes, remember we saw the one that we didn't stream it because I was showing you the book of Ken Kennan. Yeah, so that has rights basically. So that one was not streamed. Yes, but I was showing you the structure, the main structure. Yes, of the inventions, yeah. So you have transitioning, yes, with a few elements of the motif in sequence, yes, that lands on a middle entry, and in that middle entry you have what do you have, Gerios, there
before the middle entry.
No, in the middle entry. Yeah. Suppose that we are transitioning, then we'll see what do we use, what does he use. Yes, because usually always is sequential. Remember that even in Kaplan chapter number 1, sequential harmony is to go from one place to the other one. So that is, I mean, Kaplan says sequential progression because it comes from there. Yes, initially. Yeah. But then when you land on the middle entry, what was the purpose of the middle entry? Do you remember?
establish a new tonality?
It's not establishing a new tonality per se. It's to show another phase of the motif on another key. Yeah, but it's not a proper modulation because it abandons it so quickly. Yes, and it's not formally important. When you modulate, proper modulation, it has to have something to do with the form. Yes,
Okay.
in a sonata form, you modulate, yes, to the second theme, yes, because formally you have, it's a very important moment, yes, and then in exposition you're going to go back home, let's say, yes, you have 1-5, let's say, or 1-3 in a minor, yes, and then formally, yes, that will impact on, it will impact on the form. This way doesn't impact on the form, it just flows. It has more to do with a motet, Renaissance motet, in which you will start with a mode, you would modulate, proper modulation, to another mode, cadence, starting another mode, cadence, another mode, cadence, and then you go. So they apply that concept into tonality, not modality. Yes, but it's just that. It's with the idea, remember this we had the idea of the motif. Before it was the paraphrasis. You above everyone should know that. It's a Greek word.
What was the original paraphrasis?
Yeah, paraphrasis.
How do they call the first one though? Because the very first phrases, I don't know, how do they call the first motif?
No, they didn't have motifs.
How do they call it? What's the first one?
But in Renaissance,
Yes.
they didn't have motifs.
But what were they paraphrasing?
I mean, they when they started the imitation during the Renaissance, you have the dukes and the comes.
Yes.
Which is, yes, the leader follower. Then remember we said that the dukes is then the duce, the duke, the leader,
Yes, I remember now.
comes follower. But there was not a proper motif now. When imitation started, paraphrasis was ended. Imitation starts when you have the motif starts to become, to have a personality, let's say, yeah. So that's why it's not a modulation as we know it formally today. Yes, that impacts on the form. It's like, okay, this section is in this key, yes, or like a binary form. 8 bars, cadence on the dominant, standing on the dominant, a development, yes, 4 bars, then goes to the tonic. That sets the form. This doesn't. Yes, it's a flow. Yes, so middle entry, good. First middle entry. If you're in a major key, what is the key that you would go for the middle entry?
I assume it's the rest as the rest of the time periods, so to the dominant.
To the dominant, exactly. And that was, by the way, followed, let's say, respected or followed in the sonata form. Yes, you have main theme in the tonic, second theme in the dominant, if you're in a major. If you're in a minor, what would you do? Just mean. If you're in a minor, let's see, again, and then this is something that it has to do with sonatas as well. Sonatas, partitas, even numbers of suites. I mean, this is something that they started to be organized. Again, yes, the harmony started to organize the form, yes, in that way. So if you're in a minor invention, the first entry, what do you think it would be the key?
Relative major.
The relative major, exactly. Yes. So those things kept on. Yeah. So centuries, actually. Yeah. And then you have several more. Yes, that it depends if you're a minor, if you're a major, because you can, yeah, that depends. Yeah. Sometimes you go to the second, sometimes go to the sixth. Yes, but and then you have several middle entries. It depends on the invention. Yes, it's not set in stone, but at some point you go to the chord that announces that this is the end. Which is that chord? And is sorry?
The chord.
Chord, the function. Well, it's not just a chord. And this is something general. This is something that again is important in the form, not just in inventions. It started there, yeah.
That's at the end of the invention.
Towards the end. Towards the end of the invention.
I cannot imagine it. I could
Imagine
guess.
what would you do in a cadence? Which chords would you put?
Subdominant, dominant, tonic.
Okay, subdominant.
Mm.
That's the reason why, yes, in a cadence after that, yes, those things like kind of survived. Yes, you go to the subdominant, then to the dominant. So going to the subdominant is telling, okay, we're going back home. Yes. So every time you have a subdominant around, yes, look at where it's heading, because usually in tonal music, okay, I don't have to specify that, but in tonal music we are heading towards a final cadence, maybe a section, maybe the piece, something. Yeah. Okay, very good. Now that we have, and then the end, well, it can be, it's very free. Yeah, so every single, you can have a pedal, you don't have a pedal, you have, we're going to see, because each invention truly is different. We can, and this is a plan that, again, yes, is one of many. Yeah. The only thing that stays, you have an exposition, that you have imitation of the motif and counter motif, and very free. Then you have transitions, or called episodes, in which you have several middle entries, in which, yes, the first one is if you're a major, you go to the dominant. If you're in a minor, you go to the relative major, the third, and then you have another episode, and then another middle entry, and another episode, another middle entry, and then you're heading towards the subdominant, mostly. And then you have, generally, there are exceptions, you have the motif again in the tonic. Yes. So it's like we are heading back home. Yes. Not in 100% of cases. That's why. Yeah. But
So the subdominant initiates the ending.
exactly.
In the second movement of a Haydn sonata, he had modulated to the somewhere dominant, I don't know, and it was A and A, like big, and then the second day had a big section that was subdominant. So what is the huge subdominant doing there? It was just before going back to finish the.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Makes sense now. Those things start appearing in the Baroque, like harmony trying to be the structuring. Yes, that's why it's important to see the harmony as a structuring element. Yes, Schoenberg has the book Structural Harmony because of that. Yes, it's not the book that we are studying. It's a tiny book that just focuses on harmony as structural. Yes, how to structure something through the harmony, and those things started to appear and survived. Yes, also because the subdominant is the first kind of the plagal cadence that we know, yes, for one, is the first one. The dominant was not, it didn't appear first. Actually, it was the plagal. That's why it sounds so ancient. Yes, so then it went to this, that survived, let's say, through the centuries. Yeah, okay, we're going to the subdominant because that was the first one, let's say. And then we add the dominant, and then we cadence. Yeah, but you have to go through. Yes, it's kind of, maybe that has nothing to do, but you know the brain has the reptilian, the mammalian, the human. It's like, no, first go there, then you go to the new one. Yeah, so it's kind of like that. It's like a layered process. Yes. Okay, fantastic. So now we are going to go to the topic that I wanted to cover today, which is structural versus ornamental. When I put versus, maybe it's not the best words to describe, because it's not versus, it's both are contributing in a way. Yes, maybe I will change it. Let's see. So the three contributing factors. When composing a motif, we should have a double vision upon our scheme of work. We should zoom in and out from the motif. This brings both a broader view and better attention to detail. There are three contributing factors that we should take into account when composing a motif. When I say composing a motif, also take into account that you're going to analyze stuff. Yes, so analyze / composing. Melodic contour, the variables that can distinguish one melody from the other are. So, I mean, we saw the melodic contour last lesson, I think. Shape, yes. The shape of the melody that we saw, last lesson, when we have the melodic archetypes. That's the shape, the overall pattern. Yes, descending climax, ascending climax, yes, pivotal patterns, etc. Yeah. Direction change, changes in an upward or downward direction, and the frequency of these changes. Now, this has to do, you will want to relate this to counterpoint. In counterpoint, remember that we had true leaps, and I don't know if you remember that. When we said, this is a true leap in which you change totally the direction, the range of the melody, and then when you have thirds or fourths, yes, a third is not a true leap, yes, 4, 5, 6 is a true leap. So the direction change, yes, is about that. How many times in a melody, in a motif, yes, you have a direction change, yes, with a leap, right, true leap. And the range, also called melodic excursion, yes. For example, if you have a melody, you have this, yes, or better. The melodic excursion of this motif is a fifth. C, G. That's a melodic excursion, yeah? So the high points, the low points, yes? It is considered the distance between the highest and the lowest points, the rate of pitch change. It accounts for any variation in this rate of change, distribution of low, middle, and high notes. This is a little more complex. We're going to see also that in a motif you have certain notes. I mean, you could have more notes in the low range, more notes in the middle range, more notes in the higher range in this melodic excursion, let's say. Yes? So you have 3 layers, let's say, and you see. I mean, in more complex melodies, it happens quite a lot. Yeah? For example, in partitas for solo instrument, happens a lot. Yeah? Fugues of 2, 3 voices, not 5 or 4. Continuity is the general flow of effects built up by melodic intervals, rhythm values, articulation, and the duration and connection of ideas or figures. So the variables participating in this flow include intervals, so the relative size, let's say, activity, relative slowness or quickness, let's say, of rhythms, articulation, the mixture of sounds and silences, or the degree to which sounds and figures are separated by silences or rests. We say rests, but it truly is a silence. Articulation. I mean, the curious thing here is that we have the addition of silence. Because when we say articulation, we say, okay, sí, legato, staccato, staccatissimo, yes, martellato, marcato. But if you think about it, it's a mixture of sounds and silences. If you play staccato, what do you think happens in between the notes? There's a silence, right? So the mixtures of sounds and silences. The articulation is also about that. Yeah? It's not just about the rest itself. Okay? Duration. The relative length of ideas, how these lengths are sequenced. Yeah? Then why? Because a motif, if you have a very long motif, yes, well, you're going to have a very long invention. If you have a short motif, you're going to have a short invention, yes? And then the relative length of ideas, because in a long motif, you can have maybe 2 or 3 ideas. And how these lengths, let's say, when you develop something, are going to be sequenced. This maybe is a point in which we are going to work further. Yeah? So far, more or less? So good?
That's for the continuity.
Continuity.
Okay.
Continuity is the flow of effects built up by melodic intervals, rhythm values, articulation, the duration and connection of ideas. That's one of the most difficult things to achieve, by the way. Yeah? Really. Because the continuity is something that comprises everything, how to combine everything. Because it's not just that just the intervals, just the activity of the rhythm, just articulation, just the duration, is everything combined. That is what makes a motif a motif. You cannot see just the intervals, just articulation, just the rhythmic activity, because you will be, cutting out other important factors that makes the continuity of the flow, yes, of all these, let's say, effects. The skeleton melodies are identifiable frameworks called melodic skeleton, outline, or structural melody. This structure is not perceived consciously, but As it unfolds in time, the shape created by the structural notes is heard as part of the melodic framework, as it has qualities that attract the listener's attention. That the structural notes support the skeleton upon which the linearity of the melody progresses. Very interesting. So basically are the pillars of the melody. Yes, that is the structure. Yeah. A renowned music theorist, Heinrich Shankar, developed the Shankarian Analysis, in which he demonstrated through his theory the underlying melodic structure in a melody or a piece. So, these are various stages in Shankarian Analysis. The method calls the Ursatz, usually translates as fundamental structure. The underlying structure is in its purest form, from which the work as a whole originates. Anyone knows about the Shankarian Analysis? Have you heard?
Just heard of it, but I don't know.
You heard, Jasmine? Yes?
Yes, heard of it, but don't know about it.
In which context?
Not sure.
I
Yes,
mean, you were studying what, let's say? I mean, and that maybe pop up.
I think history in my history class, the teacher loves to talk about Shankarian analysis.
Ah, okay. Good. Well, the Shankarian analysis is quite new and revolutionized the way we see. Yes, we analyze music. Yes, he was a reviser. He was an editor, music. So his job was to revise and revise thousands and thousands of pieces, and he started to see that there were some connectors, some notes. Yes, that there were the pillars, let's say, upon which the ornamental, let's say, yes, layer was built upon, could stand on. Yeah, it's very long actually. Yeah. Then maybe you have heard about Felix Salzer, because he was one of his students, and well, he's the one who wrote books about it. Yeah. Structural Hearing is one of the one of the most important books that Felix Salzer published, which is very interesting. If you can read that book, is amazing. Yeah. And it explains in detail and the steps and symbols of analysis, yes, that you come across in the Shankarian analysis. Yeah. But this one, we're not going to go through the Shankarian analysis because it's extremely long. Yes. So, this graph was taken from the thesis presented by Daniel Print at the University of Massachusetts. On page 20 of his thesis, we can see how structural notes lead perfectly from one harmony to another. See beamed notes in graph. So, let's see. Now, this is an example of, just saying, yes, structural analysis. You have the bar 29 that, just saying starts here, yeah? And the note C travels through time, yes, to the B, to the A, to the G, yes, and you have here C, to B, to A, to G, yeah? Then you have a scalic passage, but which is the note, also an important note that makes the structure. The inner note D, the inner note C, the B, the A, that they're here. D, C, B, A. So you have two notes, yes, that lead the discourse. Yes? So I have yeah. But in truth, yeah, yes, those are the structural notes that they're leading, let's say, yes. They function as a support.
You're a bit quiet now.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Just 1 second. It will get to a minute. I don't know if you can hear me better now.
Yes.
Yeah. That happens. Thank you, Yurius. That always happens when I play the piano, and poor Zoom is deciding what is, what is important and what is not, my voice or the piano. So what I was saying is, clearly, yes, these intervals, I mean, you have one interval that is the connector of the whole passage. A seventh. C to D, C. B, C. A, B, G, A. So those are the pillars, yes, of the passage. And naturally, this is a sequence, and we all can see that. Yes, very obvious. There's a sequence. Well, I think it's obvious. Is that obvious? There's a sequence. Yes. Okay. Maybe it was not obvious. And also, you just have to follow the slurs. Yes. Follow the slurs. Yes, we have the sequence. But melodic sequence. Yes, harmonically as well. But how can also, which is the what do you see between these intervals of sevenths? So D and C, C, B. How, why would you think that these notes are perceived as structural? Not just because they're repeated, but related to what we just saw, okay? There is a melodic change, direction change. A true leap, what we say. This is a very good example of a direction change through a true leap. Yes? Is that clear? Yes, connected to what we saw, yes? Good. Yeah, but sometimes we have leaps, for example, a leap of an octave. It wouldn't be structurally, maybe, not so important, yes? Because it's the same pitch, right? All good for more or less? Yes? So, remember this. And all this information is in the same article. The only thing is in how to write a melody. Yeah. The only thing is I'm partitioning that article. Yeah. In chunks, let's say. Yeah. But in a melody, yes, we can zoom in, we can zoom out, and that is the attention to detail. And when you're playing, it's the same thing. To be honest, when you're playing a piece of music that you're studying, what do? I mean, you have to be aware of zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out. I mean, you're in the detail of the finger movement and the weight on one note and how to articulate one single interval. And at the same time, you cannot forget the whole arch of the piece. So as performers, you are doing that all the time as well. It's not something you don't do. Yes? The only thing now, this is more analytical. Yes? You're zooming in one single interval, but then you have to see the whole piece, yes, and understand how that small interval or that articulation impacts on the piece, yes, that you're analyzing. Okay. So these are the three contributing factors. Yes. So the shape, the direction change, true direction change, yes, that impacts on the form as well. Yes, on the structure of the motif. And the range, yeah. And this is just one of the three contributing factors, yes. I just want this to be clear. You have three contributing factors. The first one is the melodic contour that is divided in three: shape, direction change, and range. The second one is continuity, in which you have all this. Yes, the flow, all these effects that makes, yes, the motif basically, yes, flowing in the way that they do. Yes, that's why we have the intervals, the rhythm, the surface rhythm, yeah, the articulation and the duration. And the third one is the structure, is the skeleton of the motif, yeah, which is connected to the certain notes, yes, that they are seen as structural, yes. This is very well connected to the counterpoint, yes, which are the pieces that we're going to connect, if we have to connect. Sorry. Which is a species of counterpoint that deals with this structural concept.
The last one.
The last one.
The fifth.
The fifth deals
Structure.
with. Sorry?
Structure.
Sorry, come again?
The structure.
But the fifth can deal with that because it has 4 species before, in which the first one just deals with that.
Ah, you mean that kind of structure?
Yes.
Not
Yeah. I mean, there's a connection because the fifth deals with, but the fifth deals with ornamental and structural. Why? Because it's the last one in which you have go along the first one, the second one, the third, the fourth. Yes. The first one is, but the first one is just structural. Just structural. That's it.
Not structure as in form, because that's the fifth, I guess, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, the fifth is the one that is the form, because the form is structural and ornamental. Yes. Again, I insist on this one because I really like the way he expressed that, the Eduardo Quequi, my maestro. You have the structure and its expression. The expression of the structure is the ornament, the ornamental layer. The structure is a what, yes, and the expression is the how. How are you going to express the structure? I mean, if you do this example of, you know, just the example that we saw, yes, and I do this. A chain of intervals of sevenths. That's it, because that was a structure. I mean, why should I do anything else? Yeah, but you need the expression of it. You need the how. Yes, it's like having a house. You have a block of concrete. Okay, then you have the house. It's a house. What else do you want? Well, that's a practical thing. Yeah, you need it. Yeah, you need 4 pillars. Yes, you need foundation. That's fine. But how are you going to express that structure? Well, some houses have the white and, I don't know, the shade and the windows and different things. So that's mainly it. Yes, and the one that deals with just structure is the first one. That's why it's the most boring, but it's the most important. Then you see how important it is later on. At the beginning, you want to kill yourself because you cannot do anything. Yes, you're playing 2 notes, ding, ding, really long notes. But those, when you reach the 5th, in retrospective, you understand how important the first one was. Yes, you deal with that. So next time, the same. Yeah, is that clear or more or less? More or less? No? Yes? Yes? Okay. Next time we're going to see how all these contributing elements, yes, work together. Yes, we're going to analyze a passacaglia, yes, of Bach. Yes, very interesting. And then we're going to see a couple of examples together. Yes, so we're going to see, from what, review the material, review the concepts, yes, because we're going to see a couple of inventions, just the motifs, yes, not just the whole invention, just the motifs. And we're going to see together, yes, and we're going to analyze together the continuity and the skeleton, yes. And then we're going to have an assignment in which I will assign one invention to each one, and then each one has to see, yeah, what's the structure, yeah.